Hello everyone and welcome to the 40th installment of the CBYX program. That means we only got 10 weeks left, which is kind of a frightening thought to think. However, last week I had a lot going on. As I alluded to, I was going on a trip starting Wednesday after work, and I met my Midfargelingenheit. Turned out he worked at ZF, so we just met in the parking lot. And it also turned out that I knew the guy. He works in the floor under me and works in the testing laboratory and whatnot. So yeah, so it was a pretty good ride to Mainz. Then met up with all the other Mainz crew people and then drove to Brussels. Amsterdam. So Windows had an update for my computer this week, and it turns out that they liked to update so that the camera and the voice don't match when you record stuff with the camera. So excuse the fact that my voice and my face are not going to be synchronized for a good part of this video. I'm going to try to make it as good as I can, but I'm not going to spend hours on this video just so my lips match the sound of my voice. I apologize. Let's move on. So we got into Amsterdam late on Wednesday evening. Found our hostel eventually. You know, European streets, going all which ways. Sometimes it's a little difficult to find an address. Got there. Wasn't the nicest hostel I've ever been in, that's for sure. Had this nice, like, you know, old lady smell to it. The rooms were small, beds weren't great, but you know what? It was cheap, and it didn't really matter because we weren't going to be staying there that long. That evening, walked around the city a little bit, trying to get something to eat. Yeah, just kind of saw Amsterdam at night. Woke up and went to the bakery across the street, got some nice breakfast, and then Sam and I went to go park the car outside of the city so that we didn't have to pay like $80 a day to park it inside the city. Worked out well. Came back, walked into the city then, and joined up for a free walking tour. And it appears that the camera voice synchronization is now working. We'll see about that. We met at the Dam of Amsterdam, where there was this nice carnival going on. We met our tour guide and collected ourselves in the group that we were going to be touring Amsterdam together. It was about a 3-hour tour with a 20-minute break or so in the middle. It was really pretty good. The lady that ran it was always really full of energy. And she was from Britain, so she had, you know, that weird accent that they have over there. But yeah, tour went well, and afterwards we then stopped at a nice little cafe to get some lunch. We also hit up some places that we saw on the tour and wanted to revisit. There was a cheese shop. There was also this like homemade waffle and ice cream shop that we stopped off at. We then went to the Rijksmuseum to see the I Am Amsterdam sign, where there was some type of protest going on or something like that. Didn't go into the Rijksmuseum because everyone else in the group either already saw it or didn't want to see it. And I guess I was the lone man out that kind of would have liked to have seen it, but didn't want to go alone. After that, we kind of just sat in the like little grassy area right in front of the Rijksmuseum, just kind of hung out. Then we found another park, and we found another I Am Amsterdam, a second part deux of the I Am Amsterdam. So yeah, after that, then we kind of just wandered the city the rest of the day. On Friday, everyone except for Austin and I wanted to go see the Anne Frank Museum, so Austin and I stayed behind, just kind of walked around the area near our hostel. After they were done with the Anne Frank Museum, then we all collected ourselves as Sam and Veronica went to go get the car. They forgot the keys, so they had to come all the way back to the hostel where we were at, then go all the way back out to the car, then drive back into the city. Would have been just easier if they remembered the keys, right? But shit happens, you know. Then headed our way outside of Amsterdam. Our next stop on the list, I don't even want to say this because I know just one person that's watching this video is going to be just super jealous, but I gotta do it anyway. I know I'm going to regret this. I know I am, because after this video I'm going to get a super long email. Mom, I saw the freaking tulip fields in Holland. Yeah, I don't remember the name of the place that we went to, but it was just this garden pretty much, like a big garden, like park type thing, and they had tulips of every shape, color, and size everywhere as far as the eye can see. Walked around there a little bit, saw the pretty flowers, made our way to a typical Holland windmill. This is seriously like out of a brochure type of stuff here. And then we saw the tulip fields, all bright and colorful, full of rainbows, but they've already been harvested, so it was just a field of green stuff. Yeah, I guess still pretty cool to see. The garden was pretty nice, and then after we were done looking at all the flowers, we headed our way down to Brussels, and it was Brussels this time. Got into Brussels pretty late. We did an Airbnb this time, not a hostel, so we met our hosts. They were very nice. They gave us, some very good advice, like what to see what to do, stuff like that. Then we trammed into the city. The tram decided to then break down halfway there, so we had to wait like 10 minutes in the train before a new one came. Could then take it more into the city, where we then tried to find something to eat, which was a catastrophe because everything was closed and people, myself, were getting hangry. Found some food, finally made it back home, and pretty much just went to bed. The next morning, I think this is now Saturday that we're on, woke up to an amazing breakfast. The thing was, I mean, it was just, the table was decked. I mean, it was pretty legit. We were all definitely full after this breakfast. It was pretty legit, pretty good. We then again trammed into the city and met up at the Grand Place, which was a very grand place. It was surprisingly gorgeous. Just like, I mean, I did no research on Brussels before I went on this trip, and was just completely blown away how this square was just so magnificently gorgeous and detailed. For another free walking tour, got into groups, met our guide, then walked through the city. We saw the famous Pissing Boy, and yeah, his name is just the Pissing Boy. He was, you know, less than spectacular. Saw some couple old churches, saw some palaces, saw some other cool stuff, buildings, whatnot. Learned about the history of Brussels, and it was actually a really good tour. I think the Brussels tour was probably a little bit better than the one in Amsterdam, but both were pretty good. We then walked to the EU building, where the EU headquarters is. And it was really cool because on the side of the wall, they had the European Union written out in every single language of the countries that are in the EU. I found that to be quite cool. But that actually wasn't what we were going to see. We were actually going to the world's best fry place. And I don't remember if this was the one that our host recommended or the New York Times, but either way, it was supposed to be really famous and really good. Got there, the line was long as hell. Had to wait, I think in total we had to wait 45 minutes for these fries. Like, the Belgians, they take their fries pretty seriously. Yeah, I got some fries. They were good. Nice and crispy on the outside, light and fluffy on the inside. I don't know if it was worth a 45-minute wait, but nonetheless. Some of the others then split off from our group. The rest of us then went to a bar, and where we were going to have another tour. But this wasn't a free walking tour. No, this was a beer tour. My favorite kind of a tour. A beer tour. But before we get ahead of ourselves, make judgments and whatnot, it was informative. It was extremely interesting. We only went to 2 bars. The first one was called Scott's, and we went up to the balcony. It was just us, our group, and our tour guide just explained what beer is, how it's made, and then the different types of beer, the histories of the different types of beer, and what goes into making these different types of beer, why they taste different, how they taste different. It was extremely interesting. He then recommended a couple of beers that we should try and taste. We then had to decide, what kind of beer it was, how it was going to taste, and stuff like that. It was really cool. Afterwards, we then walked to another bar of sorts where they brew their own beer, and they do it a little bit differently than the most brewers do it. They only use like natural, wholesome, healthy ingredients: water, yeast, barley, hops, and good other spices and whatnot. We had then 2 samplers at this next place. Both were reasonably good. Then we had a third one. This was an interesting type of beer, and it's what they do is they don't ferment it. Pretty much what they do is they lay it on this big tray. They put it up in the rafters. They open up all the windows and let the natural yeast from the Belgian air come in, land in the beer, and then that ferments the beer. What this means is it takes quite a while for the beer to ferment. I don't know if you guys could hear in that video, but our tour guide was saying that it took 2 years for the beer that we were drinking to ferment. It was more of a wine than a beer of anything. Needless to say, I was a little skeptical at first, and with good reason, because this beer was not good. And our tour guide even told us, you will not like this beer. You're going to try it, and you will not like it. And I promise you that. But it's interesting just because of what it is, and it really was. It was good just because of what it is. It's like an old, Model T Ford, for example. It's a crap auto You know, by today's standards, it's not good. It's not fast, it's not comfortable, it doesn't handle well, it's not safe, it doesn't have any kind of accessories on it. It's garbage. But because of what it is, it's what makes it special. And it really was. It was a really cool beer. Interesting to taste. I don't think I would have ever tasted anything like that other than, you know, on this beer tour. And so, beer tour, like double thumbs up. It was really cool. After the beer tour, we met some other people that were also on the beer tour, and our tour guide also mentioned the fact that there was going to be a pub crawl later that evening. So we were convinced by maybe a little bit of this beer, as well as some of the other people that we were going to meet, plus just the sound of a pub crawl. And yeah, Austin, Sam, and I went on a pub crawl in Brussels, and it was pretty fun. Not gonna lie, it was pretty fun. Met a guy from Kansas City that was just touring Europe for a couple of weeks, and then we met two guys from Austria. So we were speaking German and American English in Brussels, of all places. It was really cool. It was a really nice gemisch of cultures. Don't really remember what time we got home, and yeah, then just went to bed after the pub crawl and got up the next morning. Some of the other people wanted to go see a museum or something, I can't remember, but it didn't interest me, so stayed behind with Austin again. We had another big breakfast, which was awesome. Then waited for the other guys to get back. Around noon or so, drove to the Atom building statue. Atomia, I think it's what it's called. The big atom thing that you guys are looking at right now. It's a science museum, but it's also really cool just to look at and go up into. It was 15 euros though, and again, the line was really long, so we decided to pass. We just wanted to look. The building wasn't the only thing that we found interesting. See if you guys could find what we also might have thought was a little bit interesting at the Atom.
House sweater. Jumps down, purse gets stuck, she's hanging there by her arm. It's like a neon lady. Pretty hipster though.
Sometimes you just gotta say to yourself, you know, what the hell were you thinking when you dressed yourself in the morning? Like fluorescent yellow. Who thought that? That was a good idea. It was funny. That was very funny. After the Atom, we then drove back to good old Germany. I got back on a train and headed back to good old Saarbrücken. Monday, went to work. Came home, went back into the city to meet up with Thad and Court, who were in town at, what do you know, a Belgian pub. I didn't even know this place existed, but now that I've been to Belgium, had their beer, and realized how freaking amazing it is, I'm going to assume that I'm going to be frequenting this place quite a bit. Reasonably priced, also, and they have some really, really, really good beers. Pretty much just sat outside, had a couple of beers, had some Flammkuchen, and just hung around and chatted for a little while. Tuesday, not a lot going on. Wednesday, also not a lot going on, other than the fact that I got a phone call from the same guys in Aachen that I had an interview for, and they would like to invite me for a second interview to meet, like, the boss, like, main guy, the head honcho, you know what I mean? So that is on June 2nd, and we will see how that goes then. It's a little ways away. But I'm very excited for that, because that's a good sign, I would think. Also this week, I got a new project assigned to work, and it involves having to call the U.S. and work with some people at ZF in the U.S. So it was nice to be able to actually speak some English on the phone in the office instead of trying to fumble my way through German, which I've also had to do this week because on May 1st my computer just decided to not allow me access to anything anymore, so I've been on the phone with IT people. But yeah, work is going really well. I've also been kind of like in the cars doing test drives and programming with one of the other guys, and he's really cool. He like loves old classic American muscle cars, which is just kind of funny to me. And a really cool guy. I'm learning a lot. Job internship, whatever you want to call it. It's going really, really well. And yeah, that's gonna bring us today. So hope everyone's doing all right, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.